Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. Much needed rain finally arrived in Oklahoma this week, providing some relief for the ongoing drought. Now the question, what effect, if any, will it have on the state's all-important wheat crop? For the answer, SUNUP's Dave Deacon caught up with our Extension small grain specialist, Jeff Edwards.
Well, Jeff, parts of Oklahoma actually had about 5 inches of rain, and that's good for filling up the ponds, but that could be a little difficult getting the wheat out of the field.
Yeah, Mother Nature has a real cruel sense of humor. We went all season without any rain, and now for our wheat crop, we never complain about rain, but for our wheat crop, it's too late to really help us out through most of the state. This rain could help us out in northern Oklahoma and the Panhandle, help with test weight, just going ahead and finishing that crop out. But where the bulk of the rain fell there in southern Oklahoma, it was really too late to help with the wheat crop and could actually hurt us a little bit.
So when you say it could hurt us, let's talk about that. It could affect the test weight.
It can affect the test weight. So what happens with wheat whenever it's in the head and it gets wet, it swells, it kind of puffs up, and then whenever it dries back out, it shrinks back down. It's a little bit larger than it was before, and we can't pack as much into the same size container. Test weight is a density measurement, it's mass over volume. So if the wheat kernels are swelled a little bit, then you're going to have more of a volume there for the same mass, and test weight decreases. So as a result, there could be some dockage at the elevator, and especially in a year like this one where we already have problems with test weight and low test weight wheat, we don't need anything that's going to reduce it further. Okay,
and the moisture in the field, that could also produce some problems with sprouting, correct?
It can if it stays wet long enough. If the ground becomes muddy and we're delayed with our harvest, and we're out for a few weeks and we have cool and damp weather, it can cause some sprouting issues in the head where the wheat goes ahead and tries to germinate in the head. We have some varieties that are a little more prone than others. Hopefully that's not going to be an issue. Again, it would have to stay wet for longer than what we have right now for it to become an issue.
Okay, now leading up to this last rain, quality of wheat fields across the state weren't too great. Are you hearing anything aside from that?
No, it's still not very good. The reports of those initial harvests that we had before Memorial Day in southern Oklahoma were yields in the 15 to maybe 20 bushels per acre range, test weights around 56, 58 pounds per bushel, which isn't bad, but we have to keep in mind that those are the fields that were left. A lot of the fields were zeroed out, so that's the best that we're getting. And when that is your best, then it's not a good situation.
So we're actually ahead of schedule as far as harvest goes?
We are. We were worried back earlier in the spring that we would be a couple of weeks behind. Our wheat was delayed, and drought and hot weather sped us along. Somebody in Oklahoma always harvests wheat before Memorial Day, and even though we had an early Memorial Day this year, we went ahead and harvested some wheat. This rain's going to have us out of the field for a little bit. As soon as those warm temperatures and those drying winds return, though, I think we're going to be well into harvest, and it will progress very quickly throughout Oklahoma when those warm temperatures return, because we have wheat that's in the hard dough stage and it just needs to be finished off.
Okay, thank you much. Jeff Edwards, small grain specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
Hi, I'm Al Sutherland with your Mesonet weather report. What a welcome sight across Oklahoma last weekend, rain. On the plus side, every Mesonet site recorded rainfall, and some of the numbers were large. On our 7-day map from May 22nd to May 28th, over 4 inches of rain fell at Mangum, Hobart, Fort Cobb, and to the east, Blackwell and Porter. These sites are in the yellow map areas with 4 or more inches of rain. The dark green map areas had 2.5 or more inches of rain. The light green areas had 1 inch or more. In the blue map areas, most Mesonet sites recorded close to 1/2 of an inch. On our soil moisture map showing the change in fractional water index values over the 7 days from May 22nd to May 28th at the 10-inch depth, sites in the dark green areas with 2 or more inches of rain jumped significantly. Tipton went from bone dry, 0, to saturated, 1, over these 7 days. Unfortunately, almost half of the state was outside of the high rainfall areas with little change in their 10-inch soil moisture. Here's Gary with how Oklahoma's recent rains have impacted our drought.
Thanks, Alan. Good morning, everybody. Now, as Al mentioned, we did get some really nice rains over the last week, so let's go straight to the U.S. Drought Monitor map and see what changes we made in Oklahoma. Now, looking at the map, we see some really good changes across southwestern through central Oklahoma and then up into the northeast. We did see some really nice benefits due to those big rains. We see much less of that D4 or exceptional drought, that dark maroon, through southwestern Oklahoma, and then we see a little bit of even D2 severe drought in southwestern through central Oklahoma. So why not more widespread improvements in the drought monitor? Well, if we look at the rainfall for just that period, keep in mind that even with those big rains, the state is still going to end up with probably one of its 30 driest Mays on record. So we just had a lot of area to make up. Some stations in northwestern, north central, and south central Oklahoma are still desperately dry for May. So that also extends out into the year-to-date period as well. Now, the statewide average for May is going to end up somewhere around 3 inches, and that's unfortunately still nearly 2 inches below normal. A lot of that will be across northwestern and north central Oklahoma, and then down through south central Oklahoma, and out even in parts of the Panhandle that saw some rain. Still between 60 and less than 20% of normal rainfall for just the May period. The statewide average is about 7.1 inches through this period. That's exactly half of normal, or about 7.1 inches below normal. That's the third driest January through May on record in the state of Oklahoma. So we still have a lot of ground to make up. And some parts of the state are still 4 to 10 inches below normal for that time period. So lots of area to make up with the drought, unfortunately. So we did get good rains this week. Now we need those rains to continue before we hit summer, and hopefully we can make some more big changes on the drought monitor map before we hit those dog days of summer. That's it for this time. We'll see you next time on the Mesonet Weather Report.
Joining us now for the latest in livestock markets, Darrell Peel, our livestock marketing specialist. Now, Darrell, we've had rain this week, which is a great sight, and it sure has everybody's attitude really picked up. How's that affecting the market, though?
Well, you know, the market effects we'll see over some period of time to come, but this is just a tremendous event for the southern plains, the southwest. This is a very different weather pattern than we've seen in many, many months. And so it not only does good for the attitude, it's very timely from a forage standpoint. It's a little later, obviously, than we would like to have had, but it's still very timely from a forage standpoint. So it'll do some real good immediately in terms of forage production and so on. More importantly, hopefully it's indicative of a significant change in the weather patterns, and it's the first of more to come.
Now, we've been talking about herd expansion going on this year. How will this play to that?
Well, this will relieve some of the concerns. In recent weeks, we've had redevelopment of the drought in the southern plains. It's regressed back towards the north and east a little bit. This will help halt that a little bit. If you look at the broader numbers, it appears that herd expansion is still in place anyway. You know, you really have to consider two factors for herd expansion. One is the heifer retention, and the other one is the decrease in cow slaughter that usually goes with that. On the heifer retention side, we started the year with more heifers in inventory, and the question is, can we keep them in inventory, or do we divert them back into the feedlot like we did a year ago? For the year to date, heifer slaughter is down 8.4% roughly. That's about twice as much down as it was a year ago. More importantly, in the last 6 weeks, heifer slaughter is down over 10%, and a year ago this time it was only down about 0.5% during that 6-week period.
All right, so that's heifers. What about cow slaughter?
The cow slaughter side is even more indicative of herd expansion at this point. Year to date, cow slaughter is down about 12.4%. A year ago this time, it was down about 1% is all. In the last 6 weeks, cow slaughter, has been down over 20% this year, 21%. A year ago this time, in that same 6 weeks period, it was actually up 20% because we had drought conditions, we had lack of hay and other things last year that actually caused liquidation in the first half of the year. We're not seeing that in the first half of this year, so it looks like herd expansion at this point is on track, and unless something changes dramatically in the next few months, we're likely to see at least a modest increase in the beef cow herd in 2014.
All right, Darrell Peel, Livestock Marketing Specialist here at Oklahoma State University.
One of the advantages that we have here in the Southern Plains is that we have the option of 2 different calving seasons. We can breed cows to calve in the spring, or we can have those cows perhaps bred in the fall and winter months so that we have a fall calving season. Some producers ask about the possibility of doing both with their herd. And there are some advantages as well as some disadvantages to 2 calving seasons versus 1. First of all, I think we have to keep in mind the economies of scale. We want to be able to put together a large enough group of calves at sale time to where we can take advantage of the price incentives that come along with lot size. So I would say that we'd have to be looking at 80 to 100 cows or more before we'd ever want to consider both having a fall and spring calving situation. The other advantage is that we can use half as many bulls. By having both calving seasons, then we can use the bulls in both seasons and have half as many for the cows that we have in our herd. But that also means that we have to take really good care of those bulls in between the breeding seasons so that they're in good enough body condition to work well the following season. Another advantage that some people look at is taking heifers from one calving season and holding them over 6 months and putting them into the other. For instance, taking a spring-born heifer and not having her calve until she's 2.5 years of age in a fall calving system. Research says that that will decrease our calving difficulty just a little bit, but it's not a big difference. And the difference is small enough that we want to keep in mind that we can't spend a lot of money for that other 6 months feed before that heifer has her first calf. One of the drawbacks that I would like to bring to your attention is that if we do hold those heifers over that other 6 months and then we have some that are open or non-pregnant and we go to cull them, those heifers are then much older and they won't bring the same price per pound that they would have brought if they were found to be open as that yearling heifer that has gone through her first breeding season. Also, I really would like to caution producers that have 2 calving seasons to avoid the temptation of moving open heifers from one season to the next. There's a real good reason why she didn't get bred in that first breeding season. We don't want to take infertile heifers and put them in the following herd and find out again that they're incapable of reproducing every year. So there are some advantages to 2 calving seasons for herds that are larger, have the capability of still producing a set of calves that are born together, look alike, and can sell together. For our smaller herds, I think having 1 good calving season of about 60 to 75 days of length is the best option, and that will give them the most efficient use of their cow herd and their pastures. Hey, we look forward to visiting with you again next week on SUNUP's Cow-Calf Corner.
Joining us now is Kim Anderson, our crop marketing specialist. And Kim, an exciting time of year most years. Harvest is underway in southern Oklahoma.
Yeah, the crop's coming in down there. Of course, it got delayed by the rain for a week or so. Those combines will be running this weekend. The quality of a crop is still questioned. I do know down in Texas, that North Texas where they're cutting there, the test weight's good. It's good milling quality wheat. The early cutting down in Frederick in that area was 56-pound test, a low test weight, but the berries were filled out, and that was one of the things we was concerned about was shrunken berries. So if we can have some good-sized berries and get test weight up a little bit, I think, of course, the production will be down, but maybe the quality will be sufficient enough for good milling wheat.
What's the latest on prices?
You're looking at prices, they've fallen off a good bit over the last month and a half. We talked about it looked like they had topped out. I think they're trying to build a bottom. You watch that July contract. I've got that support there at $7.20. We went down close to it, bounced back up. I think we've got the top at $7.60, so we could start a sideways movement as the crop starts here between, say, $7.20 and $7.60. The basis is running, $30 to $40 less than that for the cash price in Oklahoma.
With producers seeing a $1+ loss in the wheat markets in the past month or so, how low can prices go?
Well, that's a question some producers are asking. Should they be forward contracting some wheat before delivery? I say if you can afford $6.60 wheat, then you probably want to forward contract some. You ask yourself which is going to hurt you the worst, not having the opportunity to sell it for, say, $7.50 or $7.60, or have to sell it for $6.60. If you can't afford the lower price, then you need to forward contract some. How low can it go? I just can't see it going very low with tight hard red winter wheat stocks. I know we've got a lot of wheat around the world. I know foreign wheat production is going to be an average or better. I know stocks are expected to increase globally, but still wheat stocks are tight, and so I can't see wheat prices going much lower, maybe another 50 or 60 cents, but I'd be surprised.
You're also keeping an eye on corn and beans. Give us some perspective there. Well,
the corn's getting planted. It was delayed a little while because of the moisture and the weather, but rain makes grain. They were over 80% planted, probably 90% by this weekend. The USDA projected 91.7 million acres. There's talk about some of the acres in Nebraska where it's still too wet, going over to soybeans and a couple other wet areas. Record soybean plantings. So it looks like we're going to have increased corn stocks, so low corn prices where you've got tight wheat stocks and relatively high wheat prices like we had this last year, and lower bean prices because of a larger bean crop.
And let's talk canola now. You're getting calls from producers. What kind of things are they asking you?
Well, the big question they're asking is when should they cut the canola and lay it down for harvesting, because with the freeze, with the drought and all the things that's happened to canola, you've got a variety of a maturity of the beans on that plant. You've got some mature berries, and then you've got some green berries, and some plants are trying to reflower. It's important that producers either talk to their buyers or talk to Josh Brisson at OSU or Scholler or Nuance, somebody in the business about when they should cut that, because if they get too many green berries, it's going to impact the value of that product.
And compared to wheat in Oklahoma, there's still a decent learning curve with canola and farming it and knowing answers to some of these questions.
Yeah, we've got 100,000 additional acres this year of canola. It's a first-time experience for those producers. You're not just going out and combining it, you're swathering it, rowing it, letting it mature and dry. It's a small berry. You got to have a lot of duct tape to handle that stuff, because any little hole, it's going to escape. It's just looking for a way to get back out on the ground. There's a lot to learn about canola, but I was talking to one producer on his wheat field that followed canola last year. He said that's the best looking wheat he's got. So canola rotated with wheat, I think, is a good management practice, but the learning curve is really high.
Great perspective. Kim Anderson, thank you very much. And speaking of learning, we want to take a look at how canola is graded when it's delivered to the elevator.
When canola comes in, you have to look at it and get all the fine seeds out of it and the other grain out of it. So we have some sieve size. The first sieve we're going to do is, all we're trying to do is take the foreign material out of that sample. So you shake all of this out of there, all your foreign material comes out and stays on top. All your canola will go through that sieve and go down to the bottom. Then after this is sieved, to reclaim it, we go to another sieve, and you pour this on top of the sieve, and you shake this sieve to finish reclaiming it. You add these two pans together to make your dockage out of your sample, and then we'll weigh this sample up and dockage, figure how much percent of dockage is in that sample. We'll take what's recombined in this sample and we'll cut out a 10-gram portion. We'll take this 10-gram portion, put it out on our picking service, and pick out the sprout, any of the foreign material in that sample. You roll the sample over and look at it, take out any sprout or any rime damage in there to make it for your damage. You want to take this out, and you have to take out the sprout and the rime before you actually roll it and make a board. We'll put it up here and add it to your damage portion. And these sprout damage kernels are very minute in it. The sprout is very low. And once we receive all the damage out of here that we can, we'll figure that percentage up, see how much sprout damage is actually in that sample. Now we're going to take half of that sample to load an inspection board. Now the loader board, we take this board, has 100 count kernels in it. We'll take what we've already picked out for the sprout and load it on this board. All these holes on this 100 count board has to be filled up to find out the accuracy of how much damage is in that sample. So once we fill the board up, we take our pick instruments, pull it all out, and make sure all these 100 holes are filled before we put tape on it and roll it to see the damage on the interior. We'll take masking tape, press it down on the kernels to hold them to the board. We'll take the tape and pull it off. And if you lose a kernel like we did here, you will recombine to take that one kernel and put it in there to make your 100% on the board, to figure your percent of damage. Then we'll take regular tape, cellophane tape, cross on the top of it. We take and roll these kernels down flat. And it crushes those kernels. Then we combine them to what we have is a worksheet and look at the ones in the interior, whether it's heat damage or green damage. And we'll go in here and circle the green damages and the damage by heat to ascertain the right grade. And this is the only way you can actually see the internal kernel of the wheat is by actually crushing the kernel itself. Then we figure the percent of damage, as that's how we come out and grade a sample.
Cattails are a common sight on lakes and maybe in your pond already. The seeds blow everywhere, so if they aren't there now, they probably will be at some point. They are not totally bad, but if they are ignored and your pond has a large, shallow shoreline, you may be headed for trouble unless you take action early to control the spread of this plant. Don't let it get out of hand, because once it totally rings a pond and you have a wide band of it to where you can't see the water anymore, you're facing a major application problem. My advice is to keep a close eye on it. If you see it expanding beyond the region that you want to have covered by it, to get after it with some herbicides, or if it's a very small area, it is often practical to do a little mechanical control. If you cut down the stand and then let it regrow and cut down the regrowth, that may deplete the tubers and provide control that's practical on a small scale. For herbicide options, you might consider an aquatic 2,4-D or Aquamaster, or another herbicide in consultation with your county extension agent. But be sure to take into account withdrawal times and all the pluses and minuses that go along with using aquatic herbicides. Some people are very concerned about using herbicides, but if you use one that is labeled for aquatic sites, it has been tested and approved as being safe if applied according to the label directions. So by all means, do use an aquatic herbicide that is labeled for aquatic sites. Do not use herbicides that are unlabeled for that use, such as Carmex. Be sure to protect yourself and eliminate any worries about the edibility and the healthiness of any fish that are caught from the pond by using an herbicide that is selected in consultation with your county extension office.
Many people ask me what the difference is between the Made in Oklahoma program and the Made in Oklahoma Coalition program. The Made in Oklahoma program is a free program that is sponsored by the Department of Agriculture and managed by them to help bring in different marketing opportunities, such as exposure to the Tulsa and the Oklahoma State Fairs. To become a member of this program, all you need to do is go on their website, madeinoklahoma.net, and fill out an online application, and they will put you on for nothing. It's free. So it is a free program for everybody to take advantage of that qualifies. On this side is an example of different companies that are involved in the Made in Oklahoma Coalition program. Back in 2000, some of the larger Oklahoma companies wanted to expand their marketing efforts and try to work and do some more different promotions. The logo here is a little bit different, and they also have to pay $250 to belong to this coalition. They meet once a month, and they help match funds that the Department of Ag gives them. To become a member of the Made in Oklahoma Coalition, again, all you need to do is fill out an application online on their website, madeinoklahomacoalition.net. Both of these programs are here to help support ag products grown, manufactured, and processed here in the great state of Oklahoma. So if you'd like some more information about these products and all the others that are manufactured here in the state, go to the SUNUP website.
That'll do it for us this week. Remember, you can find us anytime at sunup.okstate.edu. You can also follow us on YouTube and other social media. I'm Lyndall Stout. Good luck as you start harvest this week. We'll see you next time at SUNUP.